Evening, everyone. Legislation and Committee of the Whole, Utica Common Council, April 5th, 2023. We're going to start the meeting, and we are going with the Tree and Shrubs Ordinance, number 11, dated 1/18/2023, sponsored by Councilperson Friend. At this time, I'm going to give the floor to Councilperson Friend. And there you go.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Durango. Okay. So a couple of things. I worked today. I've had some meetings between the last time we talked about this. It's been a couple months. And I worked today with the deputy clerk. You should have in front of you a new piece dated 4/5. And it has some, so rescinding and replacing Article 2 of Chapter 217. So you should have that. So be looking at that, not the old piece in committee. Has a little bit of highlighting on the front cover.
Isn't our pre-com?
I don't think it is. I think it's just one of the many pieces in front of you that.
It's in committee of the whole?
Yeah, no, not yet. It's not. It's a new piece. Right, so.
Get it yet?
No, but I thought that Drew was going to distribute it to everybody. Did he not? Nobody else has it but me?
Apparently.
Okay.
We have the old piece in
You have
legislation.
okay, so let me tell you what we did. I sat down, I've talked to Mr. Short some more, I talked to Stephanie DiGiorgio some more. It turns out that what we really want to do is to do it a little bit differently, because we're going to do a rescind and repeal. I had two pieces of legislation. One was rescind something and one was a new ordinance. So now we're doing a rescind and repeal. So we're going to be repealing 217-26 and 217-27. Those are the one about Dutch elm disease and the one marked removal of safe, injurious, or diseased trees. The rest of it is what we did. I changed a couple of things. One is that under.
Why don't you wait till you give us a copy of this?
Okay.
With you.
All right.
You know, it's hard for us to.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you can follow around.
We
You can
enjoy
follow along with your old piece.
the teacher-student thing,
Right.
but,
You
you know.
can follow along with your old. Bob's got it.
Who's on first and who's on second?
Okay. Drew's making copies for everybody.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I know you're on a roll.
It's okay. I was doing my best to be efficient with time, because I know we have a lot of things to do tonight.
Yes, we do.
We're going to wait.
Well, Frank wanted me to wait until everybody has the paper in front of them.
So we can read it, what you're doing, unless you want to do something else on the.
Okay, is there anything else that anybody want to discuss in Committee of the Whole?
We can start doing the amendments for the zoning, but how long is this still gonna be? Because there's about.
Well, she's got to make a bunch of copies, so it'll be a little bit.
Nine amendments. So has everybody got the zoning amendments in front of them?
Yeah, can I make a request before anything we even start about this? Is this anything, doesn't really have anything to do with this, but, Genesee Street, can I request that we have, a week from today or whenever before our next meeting, because I imagine the 90 days is gonna be running out, that we go over, the study, bring the police, bring the fire, bring some of the bigger merchants in, bring somebody in from St. Luke's Hospital, just to have a meeting and discuss what's going on with that. Can we do that?
I'm sure we can. You have to contact the clerk. The clerk will make
Okay.
sure we have a quorum. If you want a special meeting on that.
Okay, it's not
On
something you do
On the
right now.
19th,
Yeah,
you're
and then we'll
saying?
What's
do
that?
On the 19th?
If I
Just
can add
before.
to that too.
Just before that, because I'd like to, I'd really like to go over it.
Yeah,
I know the
'cause
paint
if
is
you have-
off the road. I've got numerous complaints the last couple of days. There was an accident on the road, and I just think we should, as a council, discuss it. So,
Yeah, I
is
don't
that-
have a problem with that.
What's that?
Yeah.
I have a-
We could all agree to it maybe later on, if we have some time.
Okay,
We'll
so I
bring
gotta
that-
do
we'll
that
bring
on
that
my, you're
subject
telling
up
me I
again.
have to do that on my own
I
tomorrow,
can,
Melissa? Thank you.
Councilman DeBrango?
It's a little different, yeah.
Councilman DeBrango? Just, I want to add to that, that I will also, I've been submitting requests. We'll be meeting, trying to get a meeting set up from engineering, planning, the CNS study traffic results, and I'm on board with that too. Some of that's already in the works, so if we can coordinate with that, that'd be great.
Yeah, once we get
Okay.
councilperson.
I'll set it up.
Massimo here. Yeah, we'll set
Okay.
it up.
It's my district. I wouldn't mind actually
Okay.
taking that on, if that's okay, Joe?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, let's get back to business here with councilperson Friend. We do have some paperwork in front of us.
Okay, so what you've got now is a reworked version of this ordinance. It's both a rescind and repeal. So rather than the two separate pieces of legislation that are in committee, but it's very similar. So we're going to repeal, or this proposes that we would repeal 21726 and 21727. And then after that, it's mostly the same, but I'll point out the differences from the previous piece. If you go to, first of all, it's all been numbered appropriately, and that was Ms. DeGiorgio's suggestion, right? So, and she, it's instructed me on how we should number it. If you go to permits and permitting, 21732, which I believe is on the 4th page. So I scaled that back. You'll remember that one of the discussions we had is that we didn't want to be preventing people from, say, appropriately pruning a tree in front of their house, or a branch gets blown down by a storm and they need to finish cutting it off the tree in order to clear the sidewalk. We didn't want to prevent people from doing those things. So now all this does is that it's a permit required for planting, removing, or destroying standing trees. So all that other stuff, the kind of normal things we would want people to be able to do, they can still do. So that's one change we made. 21740 has been reworked. Again, Ms. DeGiorgio gave me advice about how best to word that. So that's now called violations instead of penalties.
Time out.
Yep.
Do you have 21740?
Yep, I'm in front of it right now.
I'm trying to follow where we are.
I didn't get it, so I gotta.
Oh, we're on the last page of the sheets that were
Yeah,
just
I don't
handed out
have,
by.
yeah, the last thing, oh yeah, 21740 is on the last sheet.
It's on the
Yeah,
5th page.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's on-
I have 3 pieces of paper. How many do you have?
Here, Frank, I'll give it to you. That way we're going over.
Here, Frank, I don't need it.
You sure?
Yep, I don't need it.
So 21740 is
What's up
now
in this?
violations instead of penalties. And again, Corporation Counsel gave me, it helped me write that section.
I just got one question.
Yeah.
You did very well. What's the cost?
None.
No cost to city taxpayer whatsoever.
This is all stuff that was already contained within the budget. It's stuff we've already been doing.
Okay.
It just codifies, so no cost, and potentially actually will generate revenue because this will make it possible for us to apply and be granted Tree City USA, and that will help us to be able to apply for grants.
What department oversees this?
This is overseen by the Department of Public Works, by Mr. Short's department.
And Dave Short, you're okay with the
You guys go out there
legislation?
and
I
put
am.
violations out there for people?
Yes,
You don't do it before, all of a sudden you're doing it now?
we have tried before.
You tried.
We have.
You tried.
But prior to this, is as far as I could see, the research I've done, this is the first time we've amended the code with regards to trees in 30
Long time.
years, 30
Long
years
time.
or something like that.
Right.
So there hasn't been anything for him to enforce. Now there's a better thing that he can enforce.
But you're never gonna man up in your department.
Between the
So
codes
how are you
department,
gonna do that?
between the codes
You're never
department,
gonna man
UFD, or UFPD, and myself.
It seems like
Not
every
manned
time
up.
we change the code, it's a
up.
mess.
You're not fully manned,
No, we're not.
so how are you gonna do it?
But it won't stop us. I'm not fully manned to plow either, but we plow.
Yeah, now you do it even.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not sure about any of this.
we get what we gotta do.
So it's not going to cost us any money. It will make us eligible for grants. It's the first time that we've amended the code since 1992 with regards to trees. The commissioner has told us repeatedly that this will help him perform his duties in relation to trees. Yeah, so and like I say, the other thing that we changed, and the deputy clerk was very helpful in this, is we sort of condensed the tree advisory board section. So 21731, he just kind of cleaned that up and got rid of some redundant language and things like that. So,
David, can we do a trial period with this, or once we do it, we gotta keep it for the grants?
I mean, we still go after grants now.
Okay.
But when we go after the grants, the first thing they ask is, are we a Tree City USA?
Okay.
So, it can only help us. I'm not saying it's gonna hurt us. It just sort of limits us with what grants we can go after.
How many trees you plant every day?
Every day?
Every year, I mean.
Every year, the city itself, my forces,
About 30, 40?
around that. And then I got the Rotary now that plants around 40 to 50.
So as long as I've been in the council, I've always been told that you don't have the manpower to plant trees.
And what has happened is volunteers have taken over that.
Those volunteers.
Rotary, Conservancy,
Olmsted? Is
Junior
Olmsted?
OTC used to do it. So there's groups out there that'll plant the trees.
I don't mind giving it a shot, see if it works.
Okay. All I want to do tonight is place this piece into committee, and then I will discharge the other two that are currently in committee.
What's an ordinance? You need to get
It's an ordinance, I need 9, so I'm just going to place this in committee tonight, get rid of the other 2, so the clerks can stop making extra copies of those every other week.
If there's any questions in the interim, please contact David or our law department, and
Or,
from there.
or me.
All right, this is ordinance number 11, it's blank on mine, so we're gonna put number 11 in there.
Yep.
I got mine too.
All right, let's put everything on top ordinance number 11 then.
All right, if anybody has any particular changes that they want to make, I'd love to hear from you. Like I say, we did make some changes that were suggested at the last time we talked about this. Happy to consider more if we need to. It won't cost us any money. It's probably going to help us generate some money. The commissioner says he can use this law. It will help him do his job, the excellent job he's already doing.
Okay.
All right.
We'll give it a try. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
It's wonderful, David. Wonderful job once again.
Go home.
Keep going.
Go eat dinner. We
Go home.
see you later.
You gonna be around tomorrow?
Are we done with that? All right, so when we convene later on, we're going to eliminate. We can't eliminate it now? We have to eliminate it on the floor?
Yeah.
All right.
Are we eliminating?
Ordinance number 11 in committee of the whole.
There are 2 in committee of the whole. 11 is one, there's also a rescind in committee of the whole that we can get rid
Underneath
of.
it, that's
All right, so
12.
11 and 12,
Yeah.
you want to,
We'll discharge those.
Okay.
And then we gotta add this to committee, or
And
that's
then
in right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna put this into
Okay.
committee.
Yep.
Treat it like a new ordinance.
Okay.
Mr. Brang, if it's okay with you, I'd like to start going into the zoning amendments.
Go ahead.
The zoning amendments, if you guys want to pull your zoning amendments, we have about 5 of them. I'm sorry, 9 of them. I'd like to give it to our corporate counsel, Stephanie and Brian, to go over the amendments and what was recommended also by the planning board, so the administration could enforce. Would you like to start with number 25? Is it okay with you?
Well,
Wait, one second, I wanna know.
Start with number 25, ordinance number 25, amended section 2-297.
So are we going by the administrations or the
We're go-
council attorney?
we're gonna start with the administration.
Administration.
I'm gonna have Brian start just so he can give the planning board's comments. Well, let me walk through all of these and then I'll have Brian read off
If
what
there's
the
any
planning
questions,
board.
go from there.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so for the first one that's proposed, it's a change in the definition of neighborhood retail. I worked with Brian and I worked with Derek to come up with a number of different definitions, which is what you're gonna see in this lovely chart that Derek put together and printed on very large paper
Thank
for
very
you.
much, Derek.
In color.
In color, compared to my little tiny one that
It's a new budget.
looks small. So we came up with a number of definitions to essentially piece out neighborhood retail, neighborhood convenience stores,
Smoke shop.
smoke shops, and your gas stations. So the first one that we did is addressing the definition of neighborhood retail. Right now, and I'm gonna, if you can look at that chart, neighborhood retail is defined as a business with less than 6,000 square feet gross floor area devoted in whole or in part to the sale of dry goods and food and beverages, consumer goods, and food sales to be used primarily off the premises, excluding the dispenses of gas.
Done.
We then changed that to essentially say, neighborhood retail does not include the sale of food or beverages, prepackaged food, tobacco or lottery. Examples include antique shops, bookstores, clothing stores, bridal shops, and flower shops. The reason for these changes was based on what you were looking to do with the limitations and changes in the allowed districts for neighborhood retail. You'd be basically limiting certain businesses that could operate that would be defined as neighborhood retail. Those businesses are listed off on the side here. Utica Vintage Club, Frank Vita's Men's Clothing, Big Daddy's Beauty and Hair. So all those businesses would be encompassed in that and in your licensing if you were to continue to do that, which is, I believe, not your intention. So that's the reason for the change with the neighborhood retail. The next one, proposed ordinance number 26, is a new definition, a brand new definition within the code, neighborhood convenience store. This is specifically to define and target those, what we know of as a neighborhood convenience store. So those are specifically those who sell prepackaged food, alcohol, tobacco, lottery sales, but excluding the sale of fuel. Those would be the, your Taste Deli, your corner stores. Those are the ones that you want to actually license and monitor and make sure that they have their certificate of use.
And it's described by square footage, correct?
They're all described by square footage, but we change them to, reflect, so you have examples. So,
Okay.
You'll see in the neighborhood retail and the specialty food store, we gave examples of what those are supposed to be so that we know, and anybody else looking at the code knows what those are supposed to mean and what they're supposed to, those definitions are supposed to target.
You're trying to mirror the store onto the code, which is very well done. Excellent, thank you.
The next one, proposed ordinance number 27, is a specialty food store. We came up with this definition because we were concerned that there's a number of businesses that sell prepackaged food. Utica Bread, Roma's, Napoli's, Maria's Pasta Shop, Basone Sausage, a number of different retailers that sell essentially specialty food that again would be encompassed in that definition of neighborhood retail and would be prohibited if they wanted to open new businesses and would then have to be licensed. Obviously that's not your intention, so we came up with a definition that we think would eliminate the grouping of these types of businesses into a neighborhood convenience store or a neighborhood retail. And mainly we included in that definition to include bakeries, candy shops, delicatessens, health food stores, and they cannot sell tobacco or lottery. So that kind of breaks those apart and eliminates the confusion between them and a neighborhood convenience store.
I'm bad at picturing what 6,000 square feet is. So I assume that like this won't include, say, Walgreens is bigger than that.
Correct.
And like, is Lucky May bigger than that? So is Lucky May just a grocery store?
The old Halleck's Hardware. That would be on the fringe, that's close. We'd have to
Okay.
measure it.
But it might very well be bigger than that, and then it's just a grocery store. It's
Yeah,
not a
it's about that
specialty-
size,
Okay.
yeah.
It would be defined as general retail underneath the zoning code.
Okay,
If it's above 6,000.
if it's above
So a
6,000.
place
Okay,
like-
thank you.
A place like Rose's is probably what, 2,500 square feet?
Right,
It's much
Yeah.
Something like that, right?
right.
Right.
Most of these are smaller than
Right.
6,000 square feet, but that's the cap that has already been there. And that's what we just utilize as our base number for, going through these and.
So, if, let's say a place like Napoli's follows all these rules, but it's 7,000 square feet,
Doesn't matter. 7,000 square feet is a different category.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be in this category, they'd be in the same as if they'd be under like a convenience?
No.
Well,
General
we
retail.
have-
Grocery stores,
yeah.
general retail.
Yeah, these are just general definitions that most things get encompassed in. So without a specific definition, so if we don't have a grocery store definition, it's gotta fall into something else. So it could fall into neighborhood retail, it could fall into a specialty food store. But, as Marcus said, bigger, larger stores are gonna probably be encompassed in a different definition. A pharmacy, is gonna be different than, even Parkway Drugs doesn't fall into, these. They have a convenience store component, but they're not a
Right,
convenience.
but my, what I'm trying to say is if it goes by the square footage, not by the product they sell. So Roma's, for example, wants to expand and do everything they're doing now, but now they're 7,000 feet instead of 6,000. They would go into neighborhood retail, is what you're saying?
No,
No, they
anything
will-
over 6,000 square feet.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
If they
it's,
went
it's,
over
it's in a
seven-
different, it's in none of these categories. None of these categories apply to anything over 7,000 square feet.
Okay,
Over 6,000.
Over 6,000 square feet.
And neighborhood retail is strictly, there's no food or beverage sold. It's your bookstores, it's your
Right.
Antique
Hair
stores.
antique stores, it's your
So-
clothing stores, bridal shops, there's no food involved.
Can I ask a silly question? I don't know where Big Daddy's Beauty and Hair is. I take it it's not a salon, but a store?
Right on Johnny C's.
It's right there.
It's next to the Utica Center for Development.
It's the only place
They
that's
sell hair
open.
products,
Oh, okay.
dyes.
Yep, okay. I know it now. I know it now.
She gets
I
me.
know it, I just didn't know its
If
name.
you want purple hair, that's where you go.
But well, it's a lot of ethnic, to be honest with you, a lot of black people shop there.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's not a salon, it's a store.
but here's
That's all.
here's a question that I have, that I just want to clarify on the record in this common council proceeding. I don't think an amendment is necessary, but it's in a little bit of conflict, and since these definitions are the same, I want it to be clear. So when we first did neighborhood retail, they didn't, they told me that the law didn't apply in the zoning ordinance to buildings, to stores that were part of a plaza. Because a plaza was in a different category than the individual stores. Is that true or not true, or was that a misunderstanding, or is that what you intend? So like, the reason I ask is because Ridgewood Market is on here. Ridgewood Market is a plaza, it's connected to 3 other stores. So I wouldn't, the way we exist now, I wouldn't govern that as a convenience store. The same way in North Utica, they got one across from Burger King. It's in a plaza connected to several other stores. So that's not a neighborhood convenience store. That's part of a shopping plaza.
That's commercial.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's not in a neighborhood, it's in a
commercial
plaza.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as, we always took the word neighborhood to exclude those places. So as long as you're okay with me interpreting it that way, I just want the council to understand that's how I'm interpreting this.
Okay.
If you would like to amend it, then you could clarify that for me, but I'm taking the word
Yeah.
neighborhood to mean that those types of establishments aren't counted.
Well, it should
So-
be the size of the store.
Right, not
Yeah.
the plaza.
Not the,
Right.
if they're involved in
But you
a
can still
large
buy it.
complex, it's the size of the facility located there.
If that's
Should
your
adhere
intent,
to,
Then we need to.
if that's
know.
your intent, then I will interpret the law
that's
that way.
my take on it,
But
but
we
it's just
always thought
something
that
that
a
we have to-
neighborhood convenience store was different than something that was in a commercial shopping plaza.
But it doesn't
Because of
anywhere.
the impact it has on the neighborhood. A shopping plaza has parking spaces,
That's right.
right? It's a whole different animal. It doesn't have the same problem, frankly, that we've had with loitering. It doesn't have the same problems we have with codes violations, because there's usually a maintenance supervisor that's in charge of the whole plaza.
Yeah.
One part of the problem is where people hang out, where they park, and what codes issues that causes.
But I think
they're
I,
selling the
so,
same products.
but I,
Go ahead.
I've got I've got a counterexample to that, I think, which is the little smoke shop on Roosevelt.
Mhm.
That's in a little plaza, and it's a little problem. And sometimes it's a medium-sized problem.
Yeah, but I got a counter example to that. Dollar Generals, right?
They're
Like,
over 6,000 square feet.
They're- Well, not, okay.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, there's stores inside of, like, we don't have the Singertown Mall, but we have the North Utica Shopping Plaza, right? If somebody opens a store there, the Price Chopper shopping plazas,
Right.
we treat them differently than we would treat something in a neighborhood.
You have a smoke
You
shop
don't want
in
me
there,
to.
too.
But
Right,
except-
there's a smoke shop there.
but
You don't want me
are-
to.
But there are little plazas in neighborhoods. That's my very point about the Roosevelt one. That is in a neighborhood. That's why it's such a problem, because it's a problem for the residents around it, but it's in a little
Look,
plaza.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I just,
Do we
before,
need
my
to-
interpretation was that you wanted those businesses treated differently.
As long as it meets these definitions that we're proposing.
Well, the word neighborhood is what I was told. Like I said, it was
But
a
everything's-
different lawyer. It was a different thing.
Well, I mean,
But the
everything's
lawyer said that
neighborhood.
doesn't count because it's not. It's part of a commercial plaza. It's not a neighborhood.
So,
Now, it's okay. It's an interpretive thing. So I'm okay.
so like the Boneyard Barbecue, say it became a smoke shop, which wouldn't happen because it's right there in the neighborhood. The Boneyard Barbecue, remember that?
Right.
Right there on the
It's Utica
corner.
barbecue now.
If that became a smoke shop, there would be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But not the plaza behind it because there's so many square feet, right?
No. What he's saying is, if in Chinatri's Plaza,
No,
there's
not
one of these
Chenantry's.
things.
Not Chenantry's, the other place.
He's using it as a counterexample.
Because in a lot, so this all happened because we
But
had.
I'm saying the Boneyard Barbecue, that corner property, that.
It's connected to several other stores.
It's
No, it's
not,
not.
no.
Oh,
that's
no,
separate.
then that would be a neighborhood
It's a
convenience, because it's
freestanding
freestanding.
But that little plaza in the back,
That would be connected
There's
to
like
other
four
stores.
stores, there's four
Because
Yeah.
the issue came up when Alon first made these suggestions, and they were talking about regulating convenience stores. We went back and forth with the definition. Some things have changed since then. The first thing was, we couldn't talk about alcohol and tobacco because it's not in our purview to regulate. Now we can. The other thing that changed was, their issue was, and part of the definition was the dedicated parking. That's part of how codes did it. That ended up coming out because part of the concern were the cars, how they pulled up, how they parked, how they go. And the plazas have dedicated parking. But I'm willing to go to Ridgewood Market. I'm willing to go to Shenatries Plaza, to North Utica Plaza. I'm willing to go to the Riverside Center and regulate every one as if they're a convenience store. I mean,
Can I make a suggestion? In terms of that interpretive question that seems to hinge on the word neighborhood, can we add some language in here that would be something like whether in a freestanding building or as part of?
Well, I don't think so, because technically, if it's under the square footage, it's still gonna be categorized as a neighborhood convenience store. I think Marcus's question is more of a licensing, which can be directed in the licensing, if that's really a
Okay.
concern, which
okay,
is what I
right.
would suggest,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
otherwise,
Okay, that makes sense.
you know, we may have you know,
The parking spaces, don't they have a play in it too? I mean, Roosevelt has a lot of, not many parking spaces, but some, right?
Yeah, it's got like maybe 6 for four stores or 8 for 4
Is that
stores.
considered a strip mall?
well, because my thought about the intent of this, and we can go back and forth. I don't mean to be difficult, guys.
No.
I want to be sure to understand, because my thought was that part of what we tried to govern was new stores popping up.
Yes.
And how do we control the spread of stores as opposed to something that's already a commercial retail place that has several storefronts that now they can't fill because we're restricting the type of businesses that they have.
That's what I'm saying, you know, Roosevelt, that group has what, 6 or, not many parking spots. I know I got a haircut there before, but
Well,
there's not many, I mean, does that count?
doesn't that
parking
the
spots?
2,000 square foot rule though, doesn't that come into play? I mean, if there's one convenience, I'm gonna say convenience store, I know we're defining everything here,
Well,
but
let her
smoke
finish
shop,
and then
whatever,
you-
another one can't open up within the 2,000 square foot range, am I
Right,
right?
absolutely.
So that's,
the only other thing that I'll say, I mean, and I think from my understanding of your intent is to curb specific ones. So if you do have a smoke shop or a neighborhood convenience store that isn't a plaza that's over that 6,000 square feet, you know, we're talking about a bigger business, it's not one of the ones in the neighborhood. Whether or not we wanna have the, you know, certificates of, you know, having their certificate of occupancy, which we certainly can do, I think is a separate question outside of what we're doing with the zoning.
Yeah, and maybe the easiest thing for me is just to treat them all the same as far as allowing, because when there's a zoning question, we send them to the zoning board of appeals. Allowing them to open, license them, I'll just like I said, I'll treat the ones in the plaza the same as they was in the
Were they-
neighborhoods. I was confused as to whether,
I'm confused too, right?
to me, that's a change in what the council expressed their
is
intent to
that
be.
counted in the 42 or possibly 43? Are they counted within that?
No,
No? Okay.
no,
Mark,
Oh, they're not.
so,
No.
can I ask,
Ugh.
okay, so, we'll use North Utica for example.
right.
So just explain to me, with the 6,000 rule, when you're saying, because they're in the plaza, you're taking all the square footage of all the stores
No.
there? You're not,
They're,
right?
so they're saying take each one for the individual store.
Individually,
Now,
okay.
the way that was told to us in a memo that was written legally is that if one building services the other building, then we're supposed to count them together.
So you're
if one
supposed
is
to count
storage
the whole
for one-
plaza, but you're not?
No, but those buildings don't service each other. There's no way the pizza place services the corner store.
Okay, but we go into North Utica, you're saying the 2,000, so from Charlie, 2,000 is, what's that basically? Quarter of a mile.
Right.
So in the Charlie's Plaza, you have a smoke shop.
Right.
In the North Utica Plaza, you have a smoke shop. It's not a quarter mile apart. I mean, so we don't really enforce that, is what I'm saying.
No, I've never tried.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't want you to, because both of those are non-issues.
Well, that's
and
what
like
I
you're
thought.
saying. Right.
Well, the 2000 is a fairly new rule.
Yeah,
So I believe those stores are probably pre-existing.
I thought that you guys weren't talking about commercial plazas. I thot you were talking about in neighborhoods.
Well, it was a good point, because I don't think we really were until you brought it up.
Regardless, I think Marcus is also bringing up a point, I mean, that there are certain things that you don't have problems with when they are in bigger stores. I mean,
Right.
there's issues with, as Marcus said, there's parking, there's better lighting in some of those areas.
Right.
You have less of those concerns,
They close at 9
you know,
o'clock.
but we're talking about issuing the certificate of use, not what the definition is, not where they're located,
You
It's
confusing
strictly
them,
how
Mark. It's
he's
easy, wait.
Okay.
All right.
issuing his certificates
And
and who you want governed under that certificate.
And
That
the
makes
fact that they're in a
complete-
strip center makes it easier for them to comply with
Right.
the requirements of the licensing.
Right.
So-
That makes complete sense to me. It's a
Yeah,
licensing
yeah.
issue. I do
Yeah.
just want to take issue with neighborhood versus plaza. Like, the little plaza on Roosevelt is in a neighborhood. I don't know, it's just,
All right, let's,
Well, they're all
let's go to
mandated.
28, let's move on to the next one, and we'll come back.
So 28 just amends the definition of gasoline convenience station. We thought it would be better to eliminate the word convenience from that to avoid any confusion.
Very good.
They cleverly came up with a vehicle fueling station, also to include, electric, vehicle charging stations. And to make it clear that the primary purpose of this is a gas station, the convenience component of it is merely a accessory to
use.
it.
Right.
Um,
Sorry.
And we have to add the word neighborhood before the word between other and convenience stores.
Correct.
In the second paragraph, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to number 29.
29 is amending the use table. As the use table currently stands, neighborhood retail, under its current definition, is permitted in the CBD, urban mixed use, neighborhood mixed use, industrial, and industrial mixed use currently. This would be based on the new definition of a neighborhood convenience store. We're proposing that instead of it being permitted by right, that in all those areas, it'd be by a special use permit, which would mean that they would need site plan approval from the planning board, as well as a special use, which would require a public hearing by the planning board, which would allow for common council comment, public comment, and it would allow the planning board to impose specific conditions to,
Just making them
Hours,
jump through some
lighting,
hurdles to get
hours,
there.
lighting.
Just making them jump through some hurdles.
There would also
to
be
get
a 200-foot neighbor notice
Okay.
to that.
All right.
yeah.
So this legislation has to be also added neighborhood convenience store in front of both verbiage. There's 2 spots on this legislation, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, let's go to number 30 then.
Number 30 is because the use table currently does not have a definition for a specialty food store, we're adding that definition and we're also adding a new line within the use table. We're proposing that we obviously want small business, we want these businesses to be able to operate. So we're essentially taking what was the neighborhood retail and we're allowing those to be permitted by right in all those areas, CBD, UMU, neighborhood mixed use, industrial, and allowing those by right as they currently would be allowed to do right now.
so the only ones that they're not allowed is what, R1 and RM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, this one needs to be, one more part has to be amended on this where it says convenience stores on the 3rd line. It has to read specialty food stores, is that correct?
Yes.
Specialty food store.
Yeah, I mistakenly put convenience store.
Okay, let's go to
So we're
number
gonna
31.
amend
So we're also including this, and I know we didn't propose a new definition because we have a definition for smoke shops, but there is a line within the use table for smoke shops. Our proposal is again to not allow those to be permitted by right in the areas that they currently are, and to make all those areas requiring a special use permit, the same thing for the neighborhood retail, so neighborhood convenience
Convenience
store.
stores, right.
Basically requiring site plan approval, common council input as far as
Some more
public
hurdles-
hearings,
More
yeah.
hurdles because what's happening to like Rome right now and the other municipalities around us with these stores popping up all over the place. Okay?
For that reason, I'm not sure that I think that those belong in NMUs. I mean, a business district, UMU, industrial mix, all those, sure.
Well, again,
But
they gotta go through-
NMUs,
They gotta go through the administration.
No, I
That's
understand.
what- And the administration, if permitted, if they don't feel like it's in a good area, especially, of course, the administration's gonna shut it down. Of course.
well, right, so the question is whether we want to have a say in this, not just the administration.
Right.
Whether we want to, in
Well,
advance,
you
say
can
that
make-
we don't want
The only
these
thing we can
in
do by law
NMUs.
is move up the zoning area for it. If you wanna change the zoning, that's fine, but by law, we can do that.
But-
But we can't do anything else.
If you want to restrict it to not have it be in that,
Right, that's what I'm
you,
suggesting, right.
you can. I would, right now, they're all permitted by right. So,
Mhm.
but my suggestion is to make them a special use permit. So if you.
Right. I want to take it one step further.
And I don't want to confuse everybody because there was other legislation presented by you guys and Judge Garamone that just wanted to eliminate them. That's not my suggestion. So I would leave some areas for them to be able to operate these businesses, but if you do wanna eliminate, one of those areas or two of those areas, I don't necessarily see an issue with that. I would just make them the ones that you're gonna keep as a special use permit.
All I care about is can Utica defend itself when you have to defend it?
I think so, it's gonna make it,
And, whatever, we gotta make adjustments to it so you can defend yourself better, the city of Utica, that's all that matters.
So you feel comfortable with this piece then?
I do, and I'll explain kind of what Judge Garamone had presented and what you initially presented to me, and I think planning board has their comments, but I wanna get through this and not, try to keep things separate, so you're not getting confused as to what I'm
Let's put it
putting out there.
Wait, I'm not sure, I just want to finish having this conversation. Should we allow smoke shops in neighborhood mixed use? And I think that Ms. DeGiorgio was saying, in response to Mr. Williamson's question, yeah, she could defend that. If we wanted, as our right as the council, to say we don't want these they can be everywhere else. I like what you said about we don't want to prohibit them across the board. They're in a lot of other places. I just think that we should talk about not having them in neighborhood mixed use.
So, so when you say the special use permit, am I okay to talk? Or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want us? Okay,
absolutely.
So when you say the special use permit, so I kind of agree with what she's saying, but with a special use permit, if there is one in a certain place that would be okay, what you're saying is they need to go get a special use permit. And if we don't think it's a good location, we shut it down. But if we think it's a good location, we give them the special use
Not
permit?
we're
what
not the
I'm-
use permit.
No.
So what I'm saying is, so for example, right now, smoke shops are allowed in the neighborhood mixed use. If someone wanted to go have a smoke shop today, they don't need to do anything, that they can go and just have start their smoke shop.
Kind of like the place where we were worried about over on Rutger Street,
It's over 6,000 square feet.
okay.
But
All right.
if you take my proposal, and I'm gonna talk about what Celeste said in just a minute, if you take my proposal, if someone wanted to go and have a neighborhood, and a smoke shop in a neighborhood mixed use, they'd have to apply for a site plan approval and a special use permit. Special use permit would require a, public hearing to provide comment. So the planning board could say, no, we're not gonna allow you to have it there, but it doesn't outright prohibit it. It says you have to meet certain conditions and requirements before you can.
And right now, they don't have that. Right now, they could just go get it. So this is an
Correct.
extra level. Celeste wants to bring it one other level to go to us.
Yes.
Nope, Celeste.
No, not to come to us.
Celeste, her proposal is, instead of, as I proposed it, which is allowing them in CBD, urban mixed use, neighborhood mixed use, industrial, and industrial mixed use, she's saying just allow it in the central business district, urban mixed use, the industrial, and the industrial mixed use, not to allow it in,
Neighborhood mixed
neighborhood
use.
mixed use.
And if we did that, if we took my suggestion, if we agreed on that, it is still the case that they could possibly put one in NMU. They would simply have to go before the ZBA to get permission for
through a variance, which are
Through
not
a
supposed to
variance.
be easy, and they'd also, if they did seek a variance, they still have to meet the other conditions, which is the 2,000-foot rule.
right, all that.
And would need to abide by that. The reason we're proposing, not just having eliminate them, and planning board is gonna, in their decision, talk about those, but, it does give some oversight, so we can put, so if they violate the conditions of their special use permit, it's a violation.
Okay.
It's a, code violation.
Right. But Joe put it right. What you're proposing is more stringent, and what I'm proposing is slightly more stringent than that.
Right.
All right, well, let's contemplate on that at the meeting, and then we'll go from there. Let's go back to it, because we got some time. Let's have her finish up, then we'll hear from the planning board, and then we'll re-entertain that. We're going to number 32 now.
32 is amending the supplemental regulations. Right now, they just apply to neighborhood retail. They really should apply to neighborhood retail, neighborhood convenience stores, and the smoke shops, which means you can't sell food or fuel sales. They're not allowed to basically do anything that's under the New York State health law for food establishments. And then it also puts, as part of their application, they have to have a for those who have to have a special use permit, what has to be provided as part of their application.
Well, we have to add the word smoke shops in 2 spots on this one, after convenience store and after neighborhood retail, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the last one is actually amending the licenses, and that's just to reflect the change in the definition. So instead of saying neighborhood retail, you're only gonna license the neighborhood convenience stores and smoke shops, and it also provides for a new definition of the neighborhood convenience store as already proposed.
But again, we have to add smoke shop to this one too, right?
Yes.
I have one
It's
question.
there on the first one.
So let's talk about My Friendlies, there's a smoke shop there now, right? The old Friendlies on Tennessee Street? And next door, there's another.
Yes.
Wait, what, the old Friendlies on
He's
Genesee?
talking about Tropical Grotto.
Right
Yeah,
next
the
to
old
it,
Tropical
next to it,
Grotto.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a smoke shop there now.
Yes.
The Miami
Yep,
Smoke.
Very
Miami
convenient
Smoke
store.
Shop.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's also a strip mall next to it, where
Yeah.
Rose's Pizzeria.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Now, could you open up another smoke shop in that area if they wanted to? for
No,
competition?
now we're gonna regulate all of them the same, whether they're in a plaza or not. That's what they're saying they want.
That's
And
what
they
I'm saying,
can't,
that's
and
what
they
I'm
can't based on the
saying.
2,000 foot.
All right.
But they could go to the zoning they could go to ZBA.
They could go to the zoning board and ask for a variance, based on that, but the zoning board is gonna look into, are you within 2,000 foot?
Public
Do you have
hearing.
the,
Hopefully,
They have to prove a burden of.
they have to prove a burden,
right.
so.
All right, let's
Because
listen
it's
to
in
Brian
your
now
house.
and hear about the planning board's recommendation also.
If you can.
Do you wanna touch on Garamo's?
Yeah, let me just briefly talk about what you guys had presented, cause it's slightly different, and then I'll have Brian read through what planning board said.
We get it.
So, based on what Judge had provided to me about what your intent was, I helped him craft a couple pieces, which is 34, 35, and 36, which was basically not allowing neighborhood retail, as the definition currently exists, within any of those districts. Same thing with smoke shops. Basically, a blanket prohibition of these shops within the city. And I already explained my problems with prohibiting neighborhood retail because it basically eliminates small business within the entire city. So I don't recommend that for that reason. And I also think, based on my discussions with Marcus and Brian, that we think having the special use permit is going to do more than prohibiting it and allowing these variances, because it does allow us to govern them while also allowing people to have businesses and to operate. With respect to the proposed ordinance number 36, my understanding is there was some discussions about capping the number of certificates of use and conditional certificates of use for neighborhood convenience stores and smoke shops to 42. After reviewing a number of things within the zoning code and our definitions, again, this is problematic because we're capping regular businesses that are not necessarily convenience stores, but also it's going to be very hard, and I think the planning board touched on this in their comments, to monitor when a store closes and when they open. When a store does close, the current zoning does allow them time to be able to go back and essentially start a business, but essentially may not be able to obtain their license. And that could create a lot of headache for probably the law department and codes in navigating that system. There's also the system of having a wait list and who's on the wait list, and if someone's really far down, but they I just think that creates a number of headaches that will be very hard for us to solve, even though it theoretically seems like it would be a good idea and easy to do. And while I don't know that it's necessarily illegal, it's just not the best direction to
Well,
take that.
I think we got to be pretty strict on what we're doing, because you see Rome, they're having a problem now. There's smoke shops popping up all over the place. The council is dealing with that now. So we got to make sure we're very diligent and make sure that we're not,
I think,
they're going to, with the marijuana law coming, with the cannabis, the sale of cannabis, everybody's going to want a piece of it. So they're going to want to open up shops all over the city. And that's what we're trying to control, some of that.
well,
You know what I
those,
mean?
those are gonna be entirely separate. Any sale of marijuana will be entirely separate of this, and we do have some regulations already in place as far as where they can be located within the city. I am already well aware of
Okay.
the problems that will probably start to arise when we have more dispensaries, marijuana smoke shops. But I say until that time comes, and until both New York State and everywhere else can get their hand on how we're gonna be regulating some of this and how to approach it, to kind of leave those alone and just
Okay.
focus on these. As far as the licenses, I think some of this is just an enforcement issue. I mean, Marcus has the ability to enforce those who are not in compliance with the licenses, and, you know, it'll be on him, sorry Marcus, to, you know, enforce those and, you know, make sure that, you know, those businesses that are operating or not, either are or aren't doing, you know, what they're supposed to be doing, and if they aren't, to shut
All
them
right,
down.
I got Councilman
I have a
Williamson.
question. So, like I saw on WKTV the other night, so a smoke shop got arrested, or somebody got arrested in a smoke shop for selling marijuana as well as untaxed cigarettes. So when that happens, is the business closed right down, there's no ifs, ands, or but, or does it just go right back to appealing and they can go back to doing it until they go back to court?
Good
I mean, how does
question.
this work?
So we have had this issue, on the corner
Because
of.
once they violate the law, they should be done.
Yeah, and I don't wanna name a thing, but we have had an issue where that happens, where that happened here.
Yeah.
Somebody got arrested inside of a store that went there. The issue that you come into is, it wasn't the license holder, because I tried to shut him down, that was doing it. So then you have to go into basically what would be the 3 strikes program. It wasn't the person holding the license that got arrested.
But he's responsible, just like, if I let you drive my car and it's not insured, and you get into an accident, you're still not responsible.
Well, but that was the issue when the law came, is that the council wanted, and understandably so, but me frankly wanted 1 strikes and you're out. Like you commit a crime, so you can't hold the license and stuff. And the recommendation was that it had to be, in order to hold up in court, that it had to be some kind of progressive process. And there had to be an appeal within that. It can't be 1 strike and you're out. That's what was determined the first time this law was passed. If you guys want to change that, then fine, but the concern was somebody makes a mistake.
Not a mistake, you gotta remember, the owner is responsible for that premise.
We knew that, but sometimes somebody does an underage sale of alcohol.
Well,
That's why the police was involved, right? An owner might get into a confrontation with a customer that requires the police to get called, right? And so it was determined at the time that the best process is 3 strikes, you're out, and then they can appeal even that. If you want to do 1 strike and you're out for certain things, then you're going to have to enumerate what those things are. And you're going to have to say, no matter what, pull your license if they do these 3 things. Then, if who does it? Is the owner of the store responsible for every single thing that happens in his store? Or is it somebody that's employed by the store? And then how do we know they're employed by the store? So it was, if there's a series of problems at one store, we can pull their license, but only if there's a series of problems.
So like the United Square in general, you have
Right.
a lot of problems there, how come they're still open then?
Because Oneida Square, the stores that are on there, we haven't found violations of the law or the code by the owners of the store, by the people that hold the license. So most of it has been people that come into the store and create a problem. The owner is cooperative with the police, he shares his security footage, he testifies as to what he sees, and then we can't hold the owner accountable for something a third party did on his premises. That's,
Third party, but how about an employee?
well, employee is different, but we haven't had that in Oneida
Really?
Square. No, we haven't had that.
That's what happened in Rome, or
Yeah.
And
No, that's what happened at a smoke shop. We had 1 smoke shop, and I don't want to get the address wrong, so I don't want to disparage anyone.
Frank, we need to get to.
But it was in East Utica,
Brian.
where the person was selling,
Yes,
and that
and-
was that person got arrested that was selling, wasn't the license holder, but it was an employee of the license holder, so that was 1 demarcation to try to prove a series of 3 demarcations within the 2-year period of them holding the license.
All right.
Can we get to Brian Thomas?
Yeah, we
Brian?
don't have much time, so.
Yep.
Sure, I can be brief. In fact, Stephanie touched on most of what the planning board commented on. You should all have a memo from from me. At the planning board's most recent meeting in March, Stephanie, just as she did tonight with all of you, basically walked the planning board members through the proposed ordinances, both those proposed by Judge Garamone and Councilman DeBrango, as well as those that the administration put together. The planning board members did have concern over the council's ordinances that restricted convenience stores to only those areas that are zoned industrial and eliminating them from other districts. They felt that properly run and properly managed, there are benefits to neighborhood convenience stores. They do address the food desert to an extent. They also provide essential grocery items for residents closer to their homes that might have transportation issues. So they really felt it was, to paint all convenience stores with the same brush was a little extensive. So they did see the wisdom in Stephanie's proposed ordinances that put it as a special use permit in those districts, even though it will end up being more of a workload on them because they'll be the ones conducting the special use permit reviews and site plan reviews as well as the public hearings. And I believe Stephanie touched on everything else, the other concerns that they had. They did have an issue with limiting the licensing to 42 establishments for the reasons that Stephanie had touched on before. They just saw it as a major administrative burden to the codes office in keeping track of who's open, who's closed. You'll recall that this council also addressed the amount of time that a legal non-conforming use could be reestablished, and they extended it to 2 years for commercial uses. So you could theoretically have a neighborhood convenience store in a building that's perfectly laid out for a neighborhood convenience store and really can't be used for anything else. Ends up closing, their license ends up being given to a new neighborhood convenience store. Person comes in and wants to open a convenience store in that store and can't get a license for the entire 2 years that a legal non-conforming use could reestablish itself. So you could end up with a number of vacant properties because of that, which I think in itself would be a bigger blight on the neighborhood sometimes than a convenience store.
Especially because, and this is usually what we see when we get variances, we have a lot of people who come in and say we can't do anything else with this building other than put these small retail type businesses, because that's what in the 50s and 60s these buildings were. So, you know, they're very limited as to what can go in unless they're totally reconverting, you know, these homes into,
I'm good with you.
you know.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'll take their,
Let's give it a shot.
I'll
Yeah.
consider the recommendation. I have no problem doing that. You know, we'll approve the zoning text amendments now as proposed by the administration. And I think we've closed this. We won't have to deal with the convenience
Well,
stores
we
for a while.
never know what's gonna come
I
in
don't
the
know
future,
when the
but
expiration
I think we
date-
took a good bite out of it right
I
now.
don't know if we're within the 45 days, hopefully we
That's
can
right.
get it done.
Yep.
And so we don't have to have any more moratoriums.
From your mouth to God's ears.
You made some good points there.
Yep.
You know, you gotta look at it from
And then we can
different set
discharge a
of
bunch
eyes.
of other
and,
stuff. Yeah.
I like that we broke it down.
I would-
So it sounds good to me, but
I got just
Councilman
one quick
Thank
question.
you very
So-
much.
Yes,
Steph.
I would like to
Thank
thank, I would like to
And
thank
Brian.
Mr. Giorgio and Brian and Derek and Marcus. You've all been doing a lot of good work on something that we've worked,
Yes,
Yeah,
Derek, thank you
they-
for the wonderful.
struggling with for a long
a
time.
long time on it.
I just
Councilman
got
Petras.
one question. I know Councilman Williamson spoke of it before. So on all these amendments, we did nothing with a time limit. There was talk, there was gonna be a certain time. They had to close by 11.
Stephanie, would you please talk to the councilman about that?
Yeah, that would be part of the special use permit.
Yes, so
right?
those would be part of, if they want to apply, when we would see an application, it lists the hours of operation, Monday through Saturday, and it lists the hours. So with the special use, the planning board would have the ability to modify those, saying we really don't want you open,
Until seven.
Past 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock,
at
something like
night.
that?
So is there anything in concrete that states that now, them times, or no?
It varies from store to store.
Store.
It'd be on a case-by-case
Case
basis,
basis.
as they come before the planning board.
So if there's
Some
a,
neighborhoods are gonna be different than others.
but
Okay.
it gives the flexibility so that if several residents come in and say there's a smoke shop next to our house, you know, we don't want them open, they're proposing to stay open until 2 AM. Planning board could say you're allowed to stay open until
9.
Okay, but what happens if they're proposing to open at 2 AM and nobody says nothing? Do they open at 2 AM, or do you guys
So-
have ground rules for each?
the planning board will
place.
still likely look into it
Yeah.
and make their comments and provide.
Even without
And
public input, they're
And
gonna look
codes
at
would
that.
probably.
Yeah, so Joe, there's no perfect, so how we do this, when somebody gets a special use permit, Patty keeps them in urban, And if somebody complains about the violation of a special use permit, we then look it up and we say, oh, this permit does say this. We're trying to upgrade our software so that the contents of the special use permits could be attached to the ownership of the property. Right now, we don't have the software to do it, so it's kind of like a library book thing. You basically need a complaint to go react to it, because you got 15 different permits, you got 15 different things they say. And so we're trying to get our software to the 21st century so that we can better comply with special use permits. Right now, it's more reactive than proactive, to be honest.
Okay, so, but how do you, one store's opened up already till 11 o'clock, the other one opens, same type store opens up in an area, and nobody's complaining about this store, but over here, they're complaining about this store because they're open till 11.
That's what I just said. So
Yeah,
right now,
so
it's
how-
basically.
But how would you justify when the guy says, well, I'm the same type store, but they're
So-
open this hours?
So, right now, if a new store wanted to open, they need to get the special use. The special use, the planning board would say, you can't be open till this hour, regardless of what, the planning board may consider if there's a convenience store right next door that's open to 11. They may consider that, but they can put whatever impositions they want as part of the special use.
And they'll have to comply or else they don't open up the store.
That's right.
They have to comply, so if they violate it, as Marcus said, if they are open until
All I'm
2
saying
PM
is-
or 2 AM and he's getting complaints, they can go and
Okay.
say that they're in violation of their special use
All I'm
permit.
saying, for that certain area, for whatever, neighborhood convenience, they go there, get a special use permit or whatever they have to get. Is there a set time?
No, we really can't put a set time. Same thing, we have special use permits for a number of other
Businesses.
businesses
Okay.
that we could put impositions on. So we don't have a set time, but they could put impositions about parking, about lighting,
Lighting.
about fencing,
Berm, anything. Yeah.
anything.
Screening,
Yeah.
yep.
All right. I think we beat it up enough.
Are we done?
Can we do a 5-minute recess until our next meeting?
Yes,
Yes.
and then we'll reconvene.
We'll start the
for
pre-caucus meeting in about 5 minutes. Thank you,
6:05,
colleagues.
6:06. All right.
begin the legislation to be discussed in our pre-meeting conference.
That's right.
Thank you for your attention. Let's start with the proposed resolution. Councilman Colosimo-Testa is not here, but I think it's just for PJ's celebration for 95 years. It's a gratitude legislation. I don't think anybody has an issue with that. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Next piece of legislation is Commissioner Deeds and R. Jenkins. Any discussion with that? Okay, let's go to legislation number 3. This is a Commissioner Deeds for Joe M. Beatard. Any discussion? Discussion is closed. Next piece of legislation is resolution number 4, Kevin W. Revere. Commissioner Deeds, any discussion? Discussion is closed. Next piece of legislation is another Commissioner Deeds, Lisa A. Simpensky. Simpensky? This is a, I'm assuming, a Oneida County Law Department employee. Any discussion? Okay. Our next piece of legislation is David Williams. Any discussion on the Commissioner Deeds?
This isn't the Commissioner of Deeds, this is the Board of Assessment.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is his reappointment. Any discussion with David Williams' reappointment for the Board of Assessment?
So he's on it currently.
Yes, he's our old assessor, and he does a wonderful job.
Did he stay on it while he was the interim assessor?
He was there, he just needed to be reappointed.
Okay.
Any discussion? Discussion's closed. Our next piece of legislation is calling for a public hearing for the sale of 720, 722 Warren Street. You good with that, Councilman Burmaster?
Yeah, Joe's looking too.
Public hearing, we need to vote on, which is number 7. Number 8, we need to refer to committee. Our next piece of legislation, sponsored by Councilman Burmaster, on the sale of 1215 Warren Street. Councilman Burmaster. Are you okay with that one too? Okay.
I know, I can't help it.
We're going to call for the public hearing. We need to vote on that one. Number 10 is for the sale. We have to refer that one to committee.
That's not the house we sold him. We sold him on Waverly.
Our next piece of legislation is calling for Commissioner Deeds for Matthew Black, Oneida County's clerk employee. Any discussion?
Yes, we sold him a house on Waverly.
Discussion is closed.
I know that.
I'm just wondering.
Our next piece of legislation is Commissioner Deeds, Lisa M. Weeks Finnegan.
It's gonna stop the sale of these. 'Cause
Our county, I think she's the county clerk. Any discussion? Okay. Our next piece of legislation is for another Commissioner Deeds, Mara Arcarosa. Angarosa. I should have known that one. Any discussions? No? Okay, our next piece of legislation is ordinance number 14, sponsored by Councilwoman Aiello. It's the stop signs required, Mohawk Street and Catherine Street, northeast corner of Mohawk Street. Councilwoman Aiello?
Oh, yes, I'll set with this.
Okay. Next piece of legislation sponsored by Councilwoman Aiello, Hubble Street and Broad Street, southeast corner of Hubble Street. Are you good with this piece of legislation, Ms. Aiello?
Yes.
Our next piece of legislation is a waiver that we did get a memo from the corporate council. This is for a paving instructor. Is she here?
No, it's for,
Stephanie here? Stephanie, would you go over waiver? Do you remember it?
Did you ask if I was here?
Yes, I didn't see you. I didn't see you. I didn't
I'm
see you.
always here.
I did not see you. I apologize.
Basically. Actually, I'll have Mike talk about the residency waiver, just because he
it's for a
knows.
paving inspector. She's already worked for us for 2 years. She's been going to SUNY IT. We're actually hiring 2 if you'll pass this, otherwise only hiring 1. The other young man that actually lives in the city of Utica. We're extremely busy. This is even a busier year than normal, trying to right-size the department for my departure when I retire. You need engineers. We've been advertising, we've been hunting for engineers for the past several years, and I just don't get any applications. So Here we have a gal that's already worked for us. She's excellent. She saved us on the pools last year because her last name is Tucker. Anybody can, she's the one that got us chlorine. Otherwise, the pools would have been closed. So I'm asking for the council to waive the residency. She still lives at home. She's just graduating from school. She doesn't have the wherewithal to go out on her own yet. So she would like to stay at home.
Any additional discussion on the waiver? I'm okay with that. I think she's a very good employee, Michael, very well,
If
very
you were
well.
wearing snakeskin, you would have saw you.
Yes, it is. It's full-time. Any additional discussions on the waiver for Mrs. Tucker? Okay. Our next piece of legislation is number 17. This is sponsored by Councilwoman Cosmo Testa.
I think that's the next.
It's a proclamation honoring Adirondack Bank Center staff.
That person's too old for that kid.
Fans? The fans too? UFD, UPD, officers. Oh, we'll have Samantha, I have no problem in another,
Just in case.
we'll have Samantha talk about it when she gets here. Is there any additional legislation?
Well, you're pulling stuff out, right?
Yes,
All the stuff out?
yes, all
There's
Stephanie's.
there's quite a few pieces that could be discharged if you
Well,
do
we'll
go
save that. I
through
don't get
committee.
too many confused
I'm
tonight.
just
If we get
throwing it
time,
out.
we will discharge. What, you got something in your hand, clerk? What, you got something in your hand? What?
18.
Oh, I'm sorry. We talked about the trees and shrubs already.
Right, so we're gonna just get that into committee.
Right, so we already discussed it, that we're gonna refer that one in committee, and, our councilwoman is going to discharge the one that's in committee now. Okay? All right, I think that's it. Is there any other, business to be, go ahead, Mr. President.
Brad Waters is here from the Sentinel. You guys have been provided the response from Brad that he gave us. Well, I corresponded, you were in copy.
Yep.
With all the information we requested. So if you had any questions with, for him, he is here. He doesn't need to speak necessarily, but he wanted to just make himself available because they did obviously have a reporter at the last meeting, so they saw the discussion about us potentially making them the official newspaper. So he's here if you wanted to.
If the council wants to hear him, we do have a few minutes before our meeting. Would you like to hear any, and they have a question and answer section. I know it's out of the norm. Is there any issues to discuss it?
I would like to hear from Brad if you were willing to speak on a few things. Did you have anything that you wanted to share today specifically, or an overview?
So wait a minute, is everybody okay with that? Any objections? Okay, Brad? Yeah. Would you please get to that podium?
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I had an intro, but just talking with Judge Garamone there and talking about my grandmother Shirley going to watch his band back in the day. She would be just happy for me to be at this opportunity to talk with you guys, to be a potential paper record of Utica. Gannett did a great job for many, many years, which is why we respected the territory. It was just a natural break from our coverage area. But we're here to serve communities, and when we see a community that isn't being served as well as it should be, we felt there was an opportunity. And for it being only 17 minutes from my Rome office to my Utica office, it seemed like a natural fit. We work together a lot in other things. We compete a lot in sports. And it just seemed smart for us to make sure that Rome and Utica need to succeed together, and we wanted to be a part of that. Coverage of you guys, coverage of sports, coverage of education is important for communities to grow. And we've been doing it for over 160 years. I'm a 6th generation publisher of the Sentinel. And I want to make sure my 7th generation gets an opportunity, and this is part of that growth. We cover all of Oneida, Herkimer, and Madison counties. We also have a weekly in Lewis and surrounding areas. We are committed to local staff. I'm here in front of you today to show that I'm available. My door is always open. And that's why we're here. You may like some of the things we publish. You might not like some of the things that we publish, but that's good. And I want to open up to the floor. I just want an opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of you guys today. Yeah.
So just a couple questions.
Sure.
So the papers are printed locally here?
We work with Watertown, another family newspaper. We traded printing locally to adding journalists. It was a
Where's that at?
Watertown, yep.
What is your, turnover rate? So you cover a council meeting tonight, for example, it's in the paper in the morning, time by your paper, not
Yep.
a lot, but once in a while, I do see that you do a nice job covering sports.
Thank you.
And all that stuff.
Sure.
But is it, so if the game's Friday night, are the scores in the paper Saturday morning?
We are working to move our deadline to 10 o'clock, especially on Friday night, and especially football games. We do have some flexibility that I want to work in because it's important to get the scores in the next day. Our last page drops about 10 o'clock, so anything that happens, anything breaks, we have some leeway there. It will be up online though, which is I think is important. We obviously love print, but online we have about 1 million to 1.4 million clicks a month on our website, and Utica is second. So we have about 15,000 unique users every month from the Utica Zips. And so paper is great. I just wanted to point out to the online. We will have that up online next day.
So your cutoff point right now is what?
10 p.m.
Oh, I thought you wanted to move it.
We're moving to 10 p.m. It is right now 8:30.
It's 8:30 and you're
Yep.
going to 10.
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
What's the circulation for the OD versus Pro?
We circulated a little bit of that, and we originally started with 97. We are now up to 800 in just 13501 and 13502. We're up to just over 2,000 in the greater Utica area, which the 2,000 we are head to head. Our trend is up 700%. They are down 14% year over year. So at this trend, by a few months, we should pass them.
One more thing.
Sure.
Are you able to, right now, are people able to buy your paper and have it delivered? Do you guys stop me now?
Absolutely. If you live in Oneida, Madison, or Herkimer County, we can guarantee same-day delivery no matter where you are in the counties. Yep,
So
absolutely.
you were mailing them, so now you're actually delivering them?
We're mailing them, and that allows us to. So it's a different mail system now.
Oh.
We don't go to Syracuse and Albany. Our trucks are going directly to the local post offices, and so it goes right from our trucks onto their trucks that morning. So even though it's mail, it's not traditional mail. So we're arriving at Utica Post Office by 4:30 a.m. We have all of our papers carrier sorted already. They just take them off our truck, put it on theirs, and it goes out.
With your mail.
Yep. Yep.
Can you highlight the prices that you were talking about, if it's comparable with?
Oh, sure. We so their pricing, you can have a subscription anywhere between $870 down to about $150. We are 306 no matter where you live, and we can get and we're $10 a month online. But so in New Hartford specifically, we have some OD. Previous OD of subscribers that showed us their bill asking for $870 for a product we don't feel serves them. And so we are offering them $306 to make sure they have the correct coverage and it covers our costs. Sure.
Are you thinking about bringing back the paper boys and the paper girls? Back to the old days? No, I mean, the neighborhood kids.
Yeah, I mean, well, we were one of the few remaining, I know in the state, and I know possibly in the Northeast, that still hired youth carriers. We thought it was a great entry point to learn finances, balancing the
Worst job I ever had.
and we hear that most people have, and it's wonderful, and to hear
That's
that.
saying something, 'cause your
It
job
is.
right now ain't that great.
But we look our see the more important part is that we are around to make sure local independent journalism lives on. And unfortunately, we have to make cuts to make sure that we have reporters more than anything. And what's happening in California with independent contractors kind of scared me a little bit. There's a possibility that I would have had 87 additional employees because they wouldn't have been ICs, and we would fold. And so this move is to help the sustainability of local journalism. Yes.
What's your current status of having a letters to the editor page? That's something a lot of people in Utica really miss.
We have that. Actually, my dad is listening right now. I toned him down on our opinion. We want to show both sides. When we have, say, a Republican or right wing slanted, we try to find a left. We're trying to find balance, and we'll even have letters to the editor and try to find a counterpoint. So it's a point counterpoint. We always want to try to show both sides of an opinion. We do have letters to editor. You can submit them now. They might even show up next week if you guys have anything you want to send. We're always looking for local comments. That's what our bread and butter is. I didn't even like my front page as much because it was so about Trump. That's great. but that's not important, as important of what's happening local. You can get that from CNN, Fox, whatever news outlet, but that shouldn't be our main point. The main point will be watching what Thomas has to write tomorrow for you guys and seeing what's being covered. That's more important. So yes, we will have AP, we will have agate, but that should be past 1 through 5, which means, I mean, we have 5+ local pages every single day. And again, kind of going back to why we make some of the changes we do is to make sure I have at least 12 reporters that are on the ground actually getting comments. And we plan to continue that investment. As Herkimer's reached out more and more, they want us to start covering them more. I absolutely will, but I have to be smart. I want to be here for the long haul. So sorry, I went a little more, but absolutely send them in. We do need to do a better job marketing ourselves in this area. That is absolutely on our to-do list because it is available. So we want to make sure that's available.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys. Really appreciate it.
Council members, just one more thing. There is, that I didn't have the opportunity, Celeste Friend would like to make one more amendment to number 29. Celeste, would you like to explain your amendment to your colleagues and make sure you get the support?
Is it number 29?
I'm pretty sure it was 29.
31.
Is it 31 or 29?
31.
Okay, 31.
So this is the ordinance amending zone code use table for smoke shops. And I'm just going to make a motion on the floor to delete the neighborhood mixed use, since that is a residential, those are, quasi-residential areas. I would just like to make a motion to delete that from the special use, from the use table. And Corporation Council has agreed that that's not a legal problem. So I'm going to be making a motion for that on the floor. Thank you very much.
Is there any additional
Mr. Miola.
discussions on it? Okay. Thank you very much, Celeste.
Thank you, Mr. Miola.
Okay.
Aren't they gonna have to do something to take it?
Pre-caucus meeting is closed, and I guess we have a half an hour to chat. Thank you.
Would that leave the P in there?
Have a good night, Marcus. Thank you for coming. Okay, it is April 5th, it's 7 p.m., and I'm going to call this meeting of the Common Council to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Aiello, Burmaster, Friend, Miola, Urban, Beatrice, Williamson, Classimo Testa, DeBrango, Galimi, all present.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to move around the order of business this evening. We have quite a few people in attendance for a very good reason. The first thing we will have to do, however, is deal with the business of the minutes from the last meeting. The minutes have been posted to eCode 360 for the public and the council to review from the previous meeting. Would we like to read those?
I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of them, please, Mr. President.
Beatrice is the second. Any opposed to waiving the reading of the minutes? Okay, the minutes have now been accepted. They are posted to eCode 360 for the public to view. So the next order of business this evening is a proclamation honoring Adirondack Bank Center staff, fans, UFD, and UPD officers for their heroic actions and care. Councilmember Colosimo Testa has sponsored this. Would someone like to second it so we can have it on the floor officially? It's multiple seconds. We'll go with Miola on this one.
Mr. President, could we all sponsor it with?
I was going to just ask. Full council?
Yes.
Thank you very much. This will be full council.
Sure.
Council member, would you like to present? Thank you.
What's going on with this thing? Does it work?
We can hear you.
Haven't
As
been on
usual.
this side in a long time. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. It's very special for me to honor a friend of mine and her son, Robert, tonight. So I appreciate everybody so much for coming. It's nice to see the audience packed for something positive that happened in the city of Utica. So what first I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Kristen and her son, Robert. And then I'm going to have Deputy Chief Noonan and Chief Ingersoll introduce their members of the department to come up and be recognized on behalf of the proclamation. Sorry.
Could I have Sergeant Adam Howe and Officer Andre Robel come up, please?
All right, I'd like to call up Dr. Ken Vasili, Mr. Jim Monahan, Vasily Stadnik, Lieutenant Mike Kennedy, Firefighter Dylan Evans, Firefighter Dan Priori, Firefighter Bill Balsamico.
You guys, if you want to just come along this way, because it's a little easier for the camera. Just be go right along this way, so they can keep you all intact. So it's a proclamation honoring Adirondack Bank Center staff, fans, UFD, and UPD officers for their heroic actions and care. Whereas on March 18, 2023, Justin and Kristen were enjoying a night of Utica University Pioneers playoff hockey with their 3 boys at the Adirondack Bank Center. Whereas during the third period, the couple's youngest boy, Robert, who's right next to me tonight, would suddenly require medical attention. Believed to be choking, Adirondack Bank Center staff, along with fans with UPD and UFD officers, rushed to the 3-year-old's side. They not only stabilized Robert, but were able to calm him and give him comforting care for the presence of the boy and their parents and their older brothers. Whereas Robert was transferred to the hospital, where he was later diagnosed with a febrile seizure, a seasonal disease that affects the upper respiratory system. And whereas Robert is recovering thanks to the heroic efforts of those all involved. And whereas be resolved that there are not enough words to express with the gratitude of the members of the Common Council and the City of Utica to all those who stepped up and to save the young boy's life. And whereas it's further resolved that the tribute will be forever part of the minutes of the meeting of the Utica Common Council held on the 5th of April of 2023. So thank you guys for all your efforts.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Mergenthaler. This is Robert. We could have been in a number of places, camping, on a hike, like we often do with our family all summer, spring, fall. But we're actually thankful we were in the city of Utica because we couldn't have been in a safer place with these guys here. I handed my son off to strangers, and they did not hesitate to help us at a time when my husband and I, my mom, who's a nurse, we really couldn't do much for him. So I thank you guys. We appreciate you, and you guys actually probably are underappreciated. We love you. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Anybody else want to say anything? No?
Get another pop. Look at that.
Yeah, there we go.
He loves this place. Thank you. Yeah.
And I'll just pass these out to everybody that's here. So thank you guys so much. Want to pass it down? Yeah, absolutely. And then this is for Robert.
Oh, look at that. Yay. What do you say?
Guys, thank you so much again for coming. It's really appreciated. Thank you. I just want a quick picture before everybody goes.
Hey, Sam. You want him up there?
You guys are so back up.
Yeah. Hey, want to come up? We're just going to take a quick picture.
Let's get up.
Go right up front.
Address.
Angel, you're the best investigator. I know. Robert, you're gonna have to face that way. He's got kids.
Ready, 1, 2, 3. One more. I got everybody. Okay. One more. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yes, I will. Thank you. Yeah.
See you guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice seeing you.
You too.
Doctor, thank you so much. Guys, great job. Great job. Good job, Miss Lily. Good job, Mike. Good job, Billy.
Yeah, definitely. 7:15.
7:15.
And it was blowing 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Thank you, guys.
They prepared a site plan to share. So I had a feeling they'd be closed. No, but I got an email from Chuck Marshall. It's probably starting in the next day or two.
Oh, okay. Something else.
No, they already UFDO'd. Property all marked out for the utilities.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
We're good.
Maybe fall.
All right, the council. We're coming back from a recess, and we're all going to vote on that resolution, which is actually a proclamation. All right, we're now back from recess. Everyone's here, so I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Please cast your votes for the proclamation, aka
And just for the
resolution.
record, everybody was on the proclamation that was handed out. So
Of course.
I just want to say
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for everybody for sponsoring.
9 yeas adopted.
All right. Let's get to the business of the meeting. We do have a public hearing this evening. It's for the following properties. Proposed ordinance 13, the sale of 120 through 136, 142 through 146, 150 and 222 through 228 Liberty Street. Proposed ordinance 15, the sale of 822 Waverly. And proposed ordinance 7, designating the name for Johnson Park. Tom, I appreciate, Mr. Caputo, you closing the door. However, legally, I have to have the door open. No, I know. Yeah. I felt so bad having to say that. But all right, so those are the properties for the public hearing. There are no people signed up this evening to speak on those properties or ordinances designating names. So we're now going to call those from committee. Would someone like to make a motion to pull proposed ordinance 13? Miola? Friend is the second. Any opposed to pulling ordinance 13, the sale of 120 through 136, 142, 146, 150, and 228 through 228 Liberty Street from committee? It's on the floor for a vote.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you. The next piece is proposed ordinance 15. Do I hear a motion? Motion from Miola, second from Friend, to pull ordinance 15, the sale of 822 Waverly from committee. Any opposed? So, can you just hold off on calling the vote for just one moment, please? There it is. This is the ordinance approving the designation of Mushir Elzdani as an eligible and qualified project sponsor pursuant to Article 15 of General Municipal Law for the purpose of the sale of 822 Waverly Place. The sum is $40,000. It's from URA to the stated person in the ordinance. Your votes.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you. This is the newspaper. Where is the piece? 7? There it is. There. We have a motion to pull ordinance 7 from committee. Miola, Friend is the second. This is an ordinance designating the name for Johnston Park. No one's opposed. It's on the floor. Be it ordained, the streets surrounding the area currently shown in the official map as Johnson Square shall be named and designated Johnson Park, as shown on the attached map. Further ordained, the area currently shown in the official map as Johnson Square shall be renamed and designated Johnson Park. Your votes.
9 yeas adopted.
That now closes the public hearing. The next order of business is public comment period. We do have one person signed up to speak. This is Scott Rosenberg. If you could please approach the podium. The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes.
You may state your name and begin. Thank you.
I'm Scott Rosenberg. A free press is the bedrock the bedrock foundation of our democracy, and local journalism represents that foundation in its most necessary form. I say this as a 32-year veteran of the newspaper industry. 16 of those years were spent at the Observer-Dispatch. Being the corporate owner, Gannett has chosen profits over journalism and essentially abandoned this market, I opted to join the Daily Sentinel because I believe that a community needs a newspaper, and the Sentinel has risen to fill the gap in the reporting of hard news. We are here, we are your friends and neighbors. We are 6 generations of commitment to this area. As Brad has made clear to you folks on the board, he is available, I am available, and the entire Sentinel team is available and ready to serve the Utica market. I strongly urge this board to choose the Daily Sentinel as its newspaper of record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just taking a note here for the clerk. That ends public comment period. Okay, moving along this evening. We have no common council guests this evening, although we had many guests in the audience. Thank you for those who are continuing to stay throughout the duration of the meeting. It's appreciated. No communications from the mayor. Reports from the city officers. Chief Ingersoll.
Happy to announce that finally the roof project at the Whitesboro Street Firehouse will be starting on Monday.
Yes.
Materials are being delivered tomorrow. And the bids for the general construction that is going to be going on the interior of the station will be made public tomorrow and will be all published on Friday and be available. I believe the bids will have to be back sometime in early May. So another project is moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Corporation Counsel.
Nothing to report.
Deputy Chief Noonan.
I just want to thank Councilperson Testa and the council for recognizing the officers and the firefighters tonight. It's great to see such a nice turnout. I think, I know for myself, I kind of forget or become desensitized to the fact or what the officers and the firefighters do on a daily basis and how it impacts people's lives. And so it's nice to see that. It was really nice to see the turnout tonight for what they did.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Thomas.
Nothing to report.
That concludes reports from the department heads. Thank you. Do we have a cash report? No cash report. Miscellaneous communications, we have none. Petitions, remonstrances, and appeals. First District. Councilperson Katie Ayala, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to just touch on, Complete Streets. The second trial is coming to a close here, and I know a lot of people are eager to find out what the next steps are. So I've said from the beginning, we will be having a meeting once we get all the information and data in on that. So CNS Engineering finally completed their study. We received that Friday. I'll be sending that out to the council tomorrow. But right now, we have it. We're looking to have them in. They'd be available April 19th at 5 o'clock, so they can do an actual presentation to the council. I'll let everybody know once that's confirmed. I'd also like for planning department to be there and to kind of bring us an analysis of what the actual survey results were, so we can have a full scope and view of what's happening there. So that's for Complete Streets that we're calling for the district. And then I also wanted to, we had a lot of concerns and complaints with the follow-up of Mandeville. There was, once the fire happened, there was a lot of debris outside, so that's all finally cleaned up now. And all the other properties have been boarded, FEMA style boarded, so people can no longer enter those. So that is finally done, so thank you to our codes and DPW for that. Other than that, I'm all set tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second District, Councilperson Burmaster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Spring is not a favorite of my times. As a kid growing up, loved the springs, went hiking, went backpacking, and now I drive the streets and all this is dirty and filthy because everything's kind of left over from the winter. Just kind of want to tell everybody, get out there and clean up your yard a little bit, put some garbage in a bag, put in a can, just take some pride in the neighborhood and, enjoy your spring and happy Easter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Third District, Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to request that at that April 19th meeting, that we also invite Linda Luby from the State Department of Transportation to that April 19th, 5 p.m. meeting. I think she'd also be a good person to hear from in relation to complete streets. And that's all I have this evening, Mr. President. Thank you.
Fourth District, and Majority Leader, Councilperson Miola, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to really thank our clerk, Melissa Sortino, and Andrew for a wonderful job you did on our book. I know it took a lot of hours, and I know you're juggling between getting up from your desk and going to the front desk and going back again and working on this book every minute you get. And I just want to thank you very much for doing an excellent job on it. And the picture looks really good, too. Thank you. I'm all set, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Fifth District, Councilperson Venice Irvin.
Thank you, Mr. President. The work on Johnson Park is going very well for the properties where they tore down houses. They actually have foundations that are, believe they're almost built. I don't have a clue what they're going to do next, but if they're going to set housing on it, what they're going to do. But all of the foundations look like they're pretty much set to do whatever they're going to do. And what else do I have? Oh, the Renaissance Center and the Impact Center that we talked about a couple months ago at the meeting. We have a meeting coming up on that on April 17th, and that's with the community people to give us an update. So as soon as I get that, I'll bring that update to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Sixth District, Councilman Joe Beatrice, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to reiterate on what Mr. Burmaster said as far as garbage and picking up stuff and taking pride in your property. It's easy to call up and say the city's a mess here and go over there and pick stuff up, but you need to take initiative of your property. So I would ask that people do that. I also want to go over, we were all sent the green waste pickup schedule, and please remember, like, say my area in North Utica starts on, we go to April 10th, which is a Monday, through May 22nd, where you can leave items at the curb. They do not have to be in packages. From May 29th to September 29th, they need to be in containers. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. And there is a schedule. If anybody needs a schedule and doesn't have one, feel free to contact me. But I'm pretty sure every household was mailed this schedule. So I'm not going to go over it through, all the different pickup areas. But please try to follow that to keep our city clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Beatrice. Council at Large and Minority Leader Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I heard that we're losing one of our firemen as a lateral move, and I don't know all the firemen. However, the man that, doing a lateral named Pete San Antonio, I had to say, it's our loss, and wherever he's going is gain. He's just a warrior kind of guy, and he would go through a wall to save anybody. And I have to give a shout out to him. Thank you for all your service to the city of Utica, and he's just a good man, and I knew him personally, and just a good man. So our loss, and whatever city is gaining him, good on you. So that's all I can say about Pete San Antonio. Good man, he's a warrior. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Council at Large, Samantha Colosimo Testa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was very overwhelmed tonight. I didn't expect the crowd in the audience to come here and, not only support their family members, but to support Robert, who needed medical attention. So I just want to thank the chiefs for reaching out to the members of your department and the civilians that were at the scene to come to aid to Robert. I also want to echo Mark Williamson with Pete San Antonio. First of all, there's a lot of people I would go in a ring with. I don't know if I would want to go in a ring with him, but he did, but he didn't get punched by him. So it definitely is a loss, and it's Syracuse's gain. So he will definitely be missed on the Utica Fire Department. So I just want to wish him the best of luck, and thank you everybody tonight for their support on the proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you. President Pro Temp, Council at Large, Frank DeBrango, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo Councilman Burmaster. Obviously, this time of year, it just looks sloppy out there, very dirty. Take pride in your homes, clean up. Try to help a neighbor if they need help. That's the main thing. I know it's just the flowers haven't bloomed yet. We got to clean up the city, so I think we should start now. The other thing is Pete San Antonio. Anybody knows he's an MMA fighter, and I wouldn't get in the ring with him either. But like Mark said, it's a loss for the city. The kid was a tough guy, and sometimes you need that on the fire department. You need those bulls that can take care of the job. The other thing that I want to mention, it was great to see everybody here tonight. They've done a good deed. I know that's their job, and they're there to help. And we have the best police and fire department around. I can't say there's a better department around. They're all trained properly. They're accredited. They serve our community well. We have great community relations. There's a hockey game coming up on Saturday. Police versus the fire. I used to play back when I was on the department. I did score a goal. I just want to let you know. But we did, we did that for a charity as well. So I'm glad they kept it going, and I plan on attending, even though it's Easter bread Saturday. Normally everybody comes to my house and we do all the cookies and all that good stuff. But I'll take a little break. I'll go watch the hockey game for a little bit. So if anybody wants to get out there and watch the game, I believe it's 3 p.m. on this Saturday. I'll be there, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the actual packet. Everyone ready? All right. Proposed resolution number 1 is a proclamation for PJ Green. This is sponsored by Councilmember Colosimo Testa. It needs a second.
Second.
Kurt Williamson first. He is the second. PJ Green celebrates 95 years. Utica, New York. On Friday, March 17th, PJ Green Incorporated will be celebrating their 95th anniversary in business. PJ Green will host celebrations throughout the year to commemorate this milestone. Whereas PJ Green Incorporated is one of the largest variable printing companies in the Northeast and was established in 1928 by Philip J. PJ Green is PJ Green Advertising Service, and whereas Philip's sons, Terry and Pat, joined their father and continued to build the business. Today, Terry's children run the company, and with recent addition of PJ's great-grandchildren, the company is now a 4th-generation family business. And whereas in keeping with the family culture, many employees have established a long career there as well. PJ Green is poised to continue its success by retaining its dedicated employees and expanding into vertical markets. And whereas PJ Green, a certified WMBE business, is also a certified Recycle One operation that uses environmentally safe inks and fluids without toxic emissions and waste. Now be it resolved that the City of Utica does hereby recognize PJ Green for their many years of hard work and success, and now be it further resolved that the City of Utica Common Council does hereby recognize PJ Green Incorporated on its 95th anniversary in business and extend our congratulations and best wishes for many more years of success. Your votes, please.
Just for clarification purposes, I know that the mayor had honored PJ Green the day of the year of March 17th.
Yeah, I was reading this as is.
I know, and
St.
that's
Patrick's Day.
yeah. So I will deliver the proclamation on behalf of the council to them personally. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
9 E's adopted.
Okay. Hold it. I would like to know, did you want full counsel on PJ Green?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, please, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, the next piece is a Commissioner of Deeds. Needs a sponsor. It's resolution number 2. Miola, Burmaster. Commissioner of Deeds, be it resolved that the Common Council does hereby approve the following person eligible for appointment to the Commissioner of Deeds in and for the City of Utica, New York, with the term ending December 31st, 2024. Ann R. Jenkins. Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
We have a motion for Resolution 3. Miola, Friend. Commissioner of Deeds, be it resolved, the Common Council does hereby approve the following person eligible for appointment to Commissioner of Deeds in and for the City of Utica, New York, within the term ending December 31st, 2024. Joseph N. Bitar. Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
Resolution number 4. Burmaster, Miola. It's another Commissioner of Deeds for Kevin W. Revere. Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
Resolution number 5, Miola, Friend. This is a Commissioner of Deeds for Lisa A. Chaplinsky. This is an Oneida County Law Department employee, hence the address. Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
Resolution number 6 is a Board of Assessment review appointment. We have a motion from Miola, second from Aiello. Be it resolved that pursuant to Section 523 of the Real Property Tax Law, the following person is hereby appointed as a member of the Board of Assessment Review commencing April 5th, 2023 and ending on September 30th, 2023. This is David Williams. Your votes. Our former assessor.
9 E's adopted.
The next piece is a resolution calling for a public hearing on the sale of 720 through 722 Warren Street. This is from the Urban Renewal to George Waters for a sum of $250. The public hearing will be held on April 19th at 7 p.m. Burmaster's moving this one. Neal is the second. Your votes on the resolution calling for the public hearing.
9 E's adopted.
Mr. President, I'd like to refer ordinance number 8 for the sale of 720, 722 Warren Street to the committee.
Second.
We go with Friend on that second. Any opposed? It's in committee. The next piece is a resolution calling for a public hearing on the sale of 1215 Warren Street. This is from the Urban Renewal Agency to Maria Nunez and Francisco Valdez for a sum of $15,000 to renovate for primary residence. Again, public hearing April 19th, 7 p.m. We've got Burmaster, Friend. Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
Okie dokie on that one.
I like
Well
it.
done, Mr. Durant.
Mr. President, I'd like to refer ordinance number 10 for the sale of 1215 Warren Street to committee.
Second.
Anyone opposed? It's in committee. Next piece is a resolution, number 11. Need a sponsor? Miola. Beatrice is the second. Be it resolved, the Common Council does hereby approve the following person eligible for appointment to Commissioner of Deeds in and for the City of Utica, New York, within the term ending December 31st, 2024. Matthew W. Black, another Oneida County Clerk employee. Your votes. It's fine. Just 8. Call it 8 years. Yeah, we're good.
8 yeas adopted.
Thank you. Still unanimous. And it's a resolution. Proposed resolution number 12. Miola, Friend. It's on the floor. This is a Commissioner of Deeds for Lisa M. Weeks Finnegan. Votes?
Eight yeas adopted.
Thank you. Proposed resolution number 13. Miola, Beatrice. This is a Commissioner of Deeds for Mariah C. Andreosa, another clerk employee. Your votes.
Eight yeas adopted.
Thank you very much. Next piece is an ordinance, intersections where stops required. Because we did call the meeting to order with Samantha Colosimo Testa. Yeah, here we go, we'll just wait a moment. You good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Proposed ordinance 14, sponsored by Councilmember Aiello. Do we have a second? Burmaster's the second. Intersections where stops required. Be it ordained that section 216-358, Schedule C, intersections where stops required, be amended to read as follows: Mohawk Street and Catherine Street, northeast corner of Mohawk Street. Be it further ordained that the proper legislation is now in place. Your votes. Mark Williamson. No problem.
9 E's adopted.
Ordinance 15, sponsored by Councilmember Aiello. Is there a second? Viola's the second. Intersections where stops required, be it ordained that section 216-358, Schedule C, intersections where stops required, be amended to read as follows: Hubble Street and Broad Street, southeast corner of Hubble Street. Be it further ordained, the proper legislation is now in place. Your votes. Did I call a second on that? Or did you guys get the second? Did you write it down? Yeah, it's all set. Okay.
9 E's adopted.
Okay, proposed ordinance 16. This is an ordinance waiving residency requirement for the position of paving inspector. It's moved by Miola, second by Williamson. Whereas over the course of last year, the city has conducted an extensive search and advertisement for the position of junior engineer. The search yielded only one qualified candidate, Ms. Tucker. And whereas Ms. Tucker is graduating from SUNY Poly this spring with a degree in civil engineering, and whereas Brittany Tucker has worked for the city of Utica for the past 2 years in the city of Utica as a paving inspector and was instrumental in helping keep the city pools open last year, and whereas the individual currently resides in Ilion, New York with her parents, and whereas Ms. Tucker would like to reside outside the city limits, and whereas section 2.045B of the Utica City Charter authorizes the Common Council by ordinance to waive the residency requirement in certain situations. And now be it ordained pursuant to 2.045B of the Utica City Charter, and for reasons cited above, the Common Council of the City of Utica hereby waives the residency requirement provided therein to permit the appointment of Brittany Tucker of 117 Jones Road, Ilion, New York, to the position of junior engineer in the City of Utica. Further ordained, this waiver applies to this individual in the position only and will not be applicable to any future applicants for the position unless otherwise determined by the ordinance of the Common Council. Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
I believe we have some pieces in committee.
One, Celeste, friend?
Number 18, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to commit.
Oh, that's right. I don't have that in my packet. Do I have copies?
So this is number 18, rescinding and replacing Article 2 of Chapter 217 of the City of Utica Code of Ordinances.
Second.
4/5/23.
Second the motion, Mr. President.
All right. Yes. This has to do with trees and shrubs.
Yes, trees and shrubs.
All right. Any opposed to placing this in committee? Okay, it's in committee. All right, now I believe we have some things in committee for zoning.
Mr. President, I'd like to move ordinance number 25 from committee, amending section 2-29-7, neighborhood retail.
Is there a second? Second from Beatrice to pull that from committee.
This legislation does not require any amendment.
Does not.
It says it's read.
What's that?
It says it's read. You want to read it into the record? Please.
Is this a strike and replace?
Yes.
So that's not a correction of what we read earlier? In the meeting?
It could, yes, it is. Please read it into the record,
Yeah,
Mr.
we'll read it
President.
into the record then. Ordinance 25.
Yes, it is. Please read it into
When
the
were these
record.
placed in committee? Or
Um,
when were
because,
they put in the packet?
because we were
Last-
critiquing it last meeting, and we left them in the committee. Our corporate counsel critiqued a few
So they do not need the Thursday rule? They're all
correct.
labeled Thursday rule, so I'm just double checking.
Yeah, absolutely, sir.
Perfect. All right, so we're good. All right, so amendments, it's an amendment, I'm sorry. We good? This is an ordinance amending section 229.7C of the zoning code entitled definitions, neighborhood retail. Be it ordained that Section 2297, Neighborhood Retail of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Utica shall be amended to read as follows. A retail sales business with less than 6,000 square feet of gross floor area devoted in whole or part to the sale of consumer material, dry household goods to be used primarily off the premises. Neighborhood retail shall not include the sale of food or beverages, prepackaged food, tobacco, or lottery. Examples include antique shops, bookstores, clothing stores, bridal shops, flower shops, but are not limited to the above. Be it further ordained, it shall take effect immediately. It's on the floor for a vote.
Nine E's adopted.
Mr. President, I'd like to pull out of committee ordinance number 26. It's amending section 2-297, zoning code, the definitions.
Second, Mr. President.
Okay. Any opposed? It's on the floor. This one has no changes from earlier, so I'm just going to summarize. Ordinance amending section 2297C of the zoning code entitled definitions. Neighborhood convenience store or retail sales business with less than 6,000 square feet of gross floor devoted in whole or part to the sale of food, beverages, prepackaged food, etc. Be it further ordained, this ordinance shall take effect immediately. Your votes.
Nine E's adopted.
Mr. President, I'd like to move ordinance number 27, amending section 2-29, zoning code definitions, once again, for specialty food stores.
Second? All right, Williamson's the second. This piece is an ordinance amending the section just discussed. This will add a new definition, specialty food store, to the section 2297C. It's as defined in the ordinance. It shall take effect immediately. Your votes.
Nine E's adopted.
Mr. President, first I'd like to move from committee ordinance number 28, and it needs a motion for amendment after that, sir.
Okay, second? Second from Friend. Any opposed? The ordinance amending section 2297C of the zoning code entitled definitions, which amends the gasoline/convenience station section, needs to also be amended. It's on the floor.
On the
so we'd like
third,
to make a motion.
I'd like the motion to amend on the third line from the bottom where it says "and other." We need to add neighborhood convenient store items.
Second? Burmaster's the second. Any opposed to the amendment? It's amended. Please cast your votes as amended.
Nine E's amended.
Mr. President, I'd like to move.
9 E's passed.
Yes.
Passed. All right, cool. We passed it. Sorry. I was listening and freaking out.
Mr. President, I'd like to move ordinance number 29, ordinance amending zoning code use table for neighborhood convenience stores, sir. This also needs a amendment after.
Second from Friend. Any opposed? Ordinance 29 is on the floor for debate, amendment.
On the
Any
third
preceding
line,
motions? Whatever.
on the third line, I'd like the motion to amend neighborhood I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, neighborhood convenience stores. Add it to, neighborhood convenience stores on the third line. And the line right after you see the X with the quotation marks where it says "for," also neighborhood convenience stores.
So there's two places where
That needs to be-
convenience stores
Neighborhood needs to be
is
added.
used
Yes.
in contiguous fashion.
Absolutely,
You
sir.
want to add neighborhood preceding convenience.
In two places.
I like your amendment better than mine, it's much more clear.
I'm just clarifying.
Yes, it's
All right.
excellent.
Is there a second for the amendment? Friend. All right, any opposed to the amendment? It's amended. Your votes, please.
Nine E's adopted.
Mr. President, I'd like to move ordinance number 30. It's our ordinance amending zoning use table for specialty food stores. There's also an amendment required for this one.
Second? Friends, the second? Any opposed? All right, it's on the floor for amendment.
We like to strike convenience stores out of the third line, right in the beginning of the sentence, and put specialty food stores into there.
Oh. Beef jerky?
Yes, please.
All right. Second on the amendment. Friends, the second. Any opposed to the amendment? Your votes. Proposed ordinance 31.
Nine E's adopted.
Anyone want to call it?
Mr. President, I'd like to pull for committee ordinance number 31, ordinance amending zoning code use table for smoke shops. It also needs a requirement for amendment, sir.
Second? All right, I'm gonna go with Friend. She had her hand up. Thank you. Any opposed? It's on the floor.
I'd like to make an amendment, please, Mr. President. In the last line, where it says neighborhood mixed-use district, I would like to simply strike that, so that it will read urban mixed-use district, industrial mixed-use district.
I
We
like
will
that.
simply delete neighborhood mixed-use district from the last line.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Mr.
Very
Beatrice
familiar.
seconded it.
Do you want
Any
that?
opposed? What? She said strike it.
No,
The
the
second-
last line, the last line.
On the last.
Last
The
line.
last
Only-
line.
Only the last line.
Not the one that's, yeah, not the first one, the
No,
second one.
she's acting, we went over this earlier. That's,
Yeah.
that's the actual intended action, yes.
I'll second that.
All right, any opposed? It's amended. Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
Mr. President, I'd like to pull for committee ordinance number 32, ordinance amending section 2-29, 346, the City of Utica Code Ordinance. That also requires an amendment, sir.
Burmaster's the second.
32.
Any opposed? It's on the floor.
On the third line, motion to amend, it says neighborhood retail right after that. I'm sorry, at the beginning, first line, after it says neighborhood convenience store / smoke shop. Now on the third line, where it starts with B, you'll see neighborhood retail, also / smoke shop.
I'm just waiting for the clerks to. We good? Is there a second? Beatrice is the second. Any opposed to the amendment? Please vote on the legislation. I believe we have one more piece.
Oh.
9 days adopted.
Mr. President, ordinance number 33, I'd like to remove from committee. Ordinance amending section 2-14 of the City of Utica Code Ordinances. This also requires an amendment, sir.
Is there a second? Burmaster's the second to pull it out of committee. Any opposed? All right, it's on the floor.
First line, article where it says neighborhood convenience stores, we need to add / smoke shop. Then certification of use. Okay.
Sorry, across all of the uses of the phrase, or just
No,
the one line?
we need to continue the neighborhood convenience store / smoke shop certificate of use. That's what it needs to read. Got it?
He's only amending the title.
Just the title line.
Yeah, I'm just reading the rest just to double check it before he does.
That's all it needs.
All right, that's fine. Order on the floor. Okay, is there a second to the amendment? Gonna go with Burmaster. Any opposed to the amendment? Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
Mr. President, if there's no other business, I'd like the motion to close. There's more?
I'd like to make a motion to discharge ordinance number 11 and ordinance number 12, each dated 1/18/2023.
Thank you very much.
Second, Mr. President.
Okay, is anyone opposed to the discharging of those ordinances from committee?
Mr. President, I'd also like to make a motion to discharge proposed ordinance 34, 35, and 36, and proposed ordinance 2, 3, 21, 22, and 23, please.
Second, Mr.
Excellent.
President.
Those are the
Those are the initials.
Yes.
initial amendments that lay to waste.
They will lay to rest.
Anyone? Second?
Now, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, please.
Hang on, who's second?
I'd like to say one thing.
Any opposed? Hang on, hold on.
Okay.
All right, they're all discharged. Councilman Beatrice.
So I just want to say, thank God this is over. Thank you to Corporation Counsel. Thanks, Brian Thomas. I also want to give a shout out to my colleague Samantha for getting this all going too, months back. But thank you, it's all done, and we're over with it, and let's move on to our next position.
Our next endeavor.
Okay, thank you.
Catch you guys later.